So we've seen quite a lot of by-election results where the Patriotic Alliance seems to be taking seats off the DA or perhaps unseating the ANC, but beating the DA in the process. And that seems to be quite prevalent in the Western Cape and in certain parts of the Eastern Cape as well. And so my question is that an indication that there could be a broad sort of damage inflicted on the DA by the Patriotic Alliance, or is it really just something that's very limited and regional?
So my take on that is it's best to read the by-election results together with market research. What the by-election results show unequivocally is that the PA is on a tear and has been for 3 years now. Its graph's going systematically upwards, its by-election graph. And it has produced some extraordinary results, and you can't deny that. The next question, though, is where is those results? And the number of by-elections that it has won in George and surrounds is disproportionately large. It's really, made George an absolute focus. And so its sample is not that broad, actually, in the Western Cape. It focuses on, which is the nature of smaller parties and by-elections, on a very select number of by-elections where its prospects are best. And whatever is going on George, I think it's worth a standalone essay on by-elections in George over the last year, is a combination of genuine, authentic PA support increasing at the expense of the DA, political shenanigans. I think they are getting people to cross to them for reasons that are not known, but certainly not rational, I don't think, and a DA weakness in those particular areas. But if you look at the market research, which is a full sample and does cover the PA nationally, it is not hitting the lights out. So I think if you put those two things together, the PA remains a limited force nationally. It is strongest in the Western Cape, and there are particular hotspots, largely in rural Western Cape, but some urban and peri-urban centers where it is exceptionally strong and growing. And it is a threat to the DA, absolutely, without a doubt. It is growing. It's the extent of that that's difficult to manage across the Western Cape as a whole. But, I mean, it's kind of irrelevant. The DA will be absolutely panicked about the extent to which it is making inroads in the areas where it is. And you can be sure that a significant part of that campaign, although we might not see it because the kind of attack campaigns are below the media profile with pamphlets and things that go directly to people's doors and messages and stuff, it will be all over the PA, definitely.
Right. And that actually brings me to another contender, specifically the Freedom Front Plus. So we've seen how, of course, there seems to be a lot of influencers and different people that are sort of leading, saying, let's switch from the DA to the Freedom Front Plus. And we saw them do quite well in a ward in Tshwane. I think it was back in January, if I'm not mistaken. And then I also noticed how on the SRF's poll, of course, there's a margin of error to take into consideration, but they got about 4%, which, is higher than a lot of those other parties, such as the PA. So my question is, what sort of extent do you think the Freedom Front Plus could have an impact on the DA?
Well, and this takes us back to your podcast last week where you raised that particular by-election in Tshwane, and I think you're absolutely right. And this is a good example of where I think by-elections support market research, because Tshwane is definitely a hotspot for the Freedom Front Plus. It grew its vote all the way up to 7% or something in Tshwane in 2021. And in 2019, when it made its initial breakthrough at the DA's expense in a whole range of areas, Tshwane was one of the areas where it established a foothold. And that by-election in Tshwane confirms that there are suburbs and wards in Tshwane where the FF's prospects are extraordinarily good. All of this is relative. I mean, I'm not suggesting the Freedom Front's going to get 20% or anything, but all of it means it does
Right.
look like it's set for growth in Tshwane. And again at the DA's expense, and the DA will be well aware of that, and it will try to clamp that down. I mean, the DA is in an interesting position when it comes to the Freedom Front, which, just to complete my earlier thought, I mean, like the PA, is not hitting the lights out nationally, but it has these areas and hotspots. The Northwest is another one where it does have the potential to grow significantly. In places like Tshwane and Joburg, it is going to rely on the EFF, on the Freedom Front Plus, as market research stands today, for coalition partners. And I mean, you can't manipulate another party's vote to get exactly what you want when it comes to a coalition. You don't care about that when you're campaigning. You just want to minimize all opposition votes. But the DA does have a choice to make in terms of emphasis. Does it try to grow in Tshwane and Joburg at the Freedom Front's expense and pour resources into those parties, or Action South Africa, or one of the other competitors in those areas? Or does it try to eat into the ANC's vote to get to as close as it can to 50? Which it absolutely, I mean, I don't think it will get to 50, but there's no reason why that goal shouldn't motivate party activity. And so it's a payoff question. Where are the DAs, if it's trying to move from, say, 40 in Tshwane and Johannesburg to 45, where does that 5% come from? Does it just try to hold what it's got and try and ensure that it gets a differential on turnout? Or does it actually focus its campaign on winning new votes, in which case defensive winning against parties like the Freedom Front and Action South Africa is far tougher and more attritional than new market winning, as long as you can capture it. There are 1 billion votes in new markets. And it'll be interesting to see what the DA does. Does it focus on the FF and Action South Africa and the opposition outside of defending its reputation against them? Or does it focus on the ANC and new markets? All will be revealed after this weekend, I suspect.